I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for March 28th, 2022. Would you please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Denise Hoppy,
Present.
Judy Hutchinson,
Present.
Scott Ohm,
Here.
Rachel Holteen.
She was going to be running a little bit late today.
Thank you, sir. Amanda Weaver,
Here.
Corey Stites,
Here.
Leah Dozman,
Ms. Dozman just texted me. She said she's late. She's on her way.
Ms. Nosler Beck.
She has an excused absence tonight.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, before you, you have minutes for January 3rd, 2020 special study notes, February 28th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes, February 28th, 2022 special study session notes, and March 7, 2022 study session notes. Without objection, are there any corrections to be made? Seeing none, the minutes and notes will stand approved as submitted. Without objection, the agenda will stay as is. No objections. We'll continue with the agenda as presented. We have several proclamations this evening, so I'll go to the podium. We have a proclamation in support of National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I would like to invite Jennifer Kemps of the Ralston House to join me, and Sin Chapman with Victims Outreach to join me to receive the. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. It's a proclamation in support of National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas every child deserves to grow up in a safe, nurturing environment, free from harm and fear. All children do not receive appropriate care. In fact, many children become victims at the hands of abusive perpetrators. And it is up to us as a community to tirelessly work to end it through awareness and action. And whereas the month of April has been designated nationally as Child Abuse Prevention Month, at this time we encourage all Wheat Ridge community members to join in reviewing our commitment in preventing child abuse and learning what we can do to promote the safety and well-being of children. And whereas Wheat Ridge has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child abuse and to help parents obtain the assistance they need. And whereas our community is stronger when all community members become aware of child abuse prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs, such as Ralston House, succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas all community members, community agencies, faith organizations, and businesses will work to increase their efforts to support families. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 to be National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Signed this 28th day of March, 2022. Would you like to say a few words?
Mayor, Council, thank you so much, City of Wheat Ridge, for recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Ralston House last year saw 1,300 children and teens come through our doors. And while that number keeps increasing, it's actually a good thing. It means kids are speaking up and adults are believing them. So we greatly appreciate recognizing that. The more children that come to Ralston House, the more victim services we can get to those families, and the more children we can get therapy resources to. So thank you.
Hi, I echo those comments and appreciate being here with our partner, Ralston House, and appreciate the mayor, council, and chief, and also our board member, Dave Pickett. Thank you for this recognition.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next proclamation is in support of National Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the Colorado Denim Day, April 27th, 2020. And I would like to invite, once again, Sin Chapman forward, and former commander, or still Commander Dave Pickett, who's on the board of directors for Victims Outreach, to join me at the podium. Whereas every day, women, men, and children across Colorado suffer the pain and trauma of sexual abuse. And whereas sexual violence affects individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances. And whereas this crime occurs far too frequently, goes unreported far too often, and leaves long-lasting physical and emotional scars. And whereas during National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we recommit ourselves to not only lifting the veil of secrecy and shame surrounding sexual violence, but also to raise awareness, expanding support for victims, and strengthening our responses. And whereas, as a nation, we share the responsibility for protecting each other from sexual assault, supporting victims when it does occur, and bringing perpetrators to justice. And whereas, at the state level, we must work to provide necessary resources to victims of every circumstance, including medical attention, mental health services, relocation and housing assistance, and advocacy during the criminal justice process. And whereas Colorado communities can come together to increase awareness about sexual violence, decrease its frequency, hold offenders accountable, support victims and organizations such as Victims Outreach Incorporated and Porchlight Family Justice Center, and heal lives. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, do hereby declare the month of April 2022 as National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and further recognize April 27, 2022 as Colorado Denim Day, encouraging Wheat Ridge residents to wear denim to show their support for victims of sexual assault and highlight this issue within our community. Signed on this 28th day of March, 2022. Say a few words.
Well, again, thank you for this important recognition. We appreciate being here with you this evening, and thank you also on behalf of our partners at Porchlight. We have a wonderful community of collaboration. As you know, we appreciate serving with you, with the chief and his staff, and certainly serving on behalf of your citizens in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Chief Murtha, thank you very much for this proclamation. As a member of the Victim Outreach Board of Directors, I speak for them when I say that we are ready to go forward with our partnership with the City of Wheat Ridge in support of victim services and support those victims of sexual assault as well as other crimes, both at the time of victimization, through prosecution, and on forward into healing. Thank you very much.
And we have one more presentation to recognize and honor Sadie Carter on her retirement. And I'm going to ask, Sadie couldn't be with us tonight. I'd like to ask Chief Murtha to come forward and receive the proclamation on her behalf. Chief, thanks for being here. This is a proclamation in appreciation of Sadie Carter in recognition of her dedication and commitment to the Wheat Ridge Police Department and the City of Wheat Ridge. Whereas the Mayor and City Council of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, desire to formally express appreciation to Sadie Carter, who has served the City of Wheat Ridge with integrity, respect, courage, perseverance, and initiative. And whereas Sadie Carter is retiring from the Wheat Ridge Police Department after 22 years of dedicated service from May 10, 1999 to March 17, 2022. And whereas during those 22 years, Sadie Carter served in many capacities, including the reception desk, police records, sex offender registration, and evidence technician. And whereas it is important that everyone know and understand the attention to detail, organizational skill, and daily devotion to her responsibilities that has created the first-rate evidence and property room currently in place at the Wheat Ridge Police Department. Now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the City Council and the people of the City of Wheat Ridge, I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, do hereby proclaim to Sadie Carter for her faithful and loyal devotion to the Wheat Ridge Police Department and to the people of Wheat Ridge for the past 22 years, dated this 28th day of March, 2022. Chief? Thank you. Yes. Robin, I'm sure you noticed, but we have our Councilor Rachel Hulteen has joined our meeting. And Councilor Dozman also. Hadn't seen her. We are now at our public's right to speak. Members of the public may speak on any matter not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes under this public's right to speak. I will see if we have a sign-in sheet. No one has signed in, I don't believe. But he's okay. We have capable people here to bring those things forward, so we've accomplished that. I have no one signed up to speak under public's right to speak, but we want to invite anyone here who is not signed up but would like to speak. You may do so now by coming to the podium. And I'm going to ask our clerk, if you're joining us online, you have an opportunity to address the council for 3 minutes on any item not on the agenda. And I'll ask our clerk, or actually we have Ms. Scheck monitoring the online. If you are online and would like to speak, please raise your hand in the online function and we'll bring you into the meeting. And I'll see if anyone has raised
Just
their
giving
hand.
it a moment to see if someone puts their hand up, Mayor.
All right.
We do have a few
We'll
people.
hold just a moment. And that raise hand function is typically located at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom format.
I don't believe so, Mayor.
Okay, we don't have anyone desiring to speak tonight, so we will conclude that portion of our agenda and go to item number 1. This is our consent agenda item. A consent agenda, and Councilor Ohm, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the following consent agenda items. Item 1A, resolution number 12-2022, resolution amending the fiscal year 2022 Public Art Fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $185,000 for the Clear Creek Crossing Public Art installation. Item 1B, resolution 13-2022, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with Jefferson County concerning the release and use of electronic copies of building permits and plans for the purpose of assessing real property. Item 1C, Resolution 14-2022, a resolution approving an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for the West Metro Drug Task Force. And item 1D, a resolution number 15-2022, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022 general fund budget to reflect approval of a supplemental budget appropriation amount of $34,058 for the purpose of approving a grant agreement with the History Colorado State Historical Fund.
Thank you. This is the consent agenda items for the council. Councilor Ohm, a motion is in order.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Stites. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 2. Councilor Holteen, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce resolution number 09-2022, a resolution approving the assignment to the Housing Authority of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, DBA Metro West Housing Solutions of $1,789,050 of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado's 2022 Private Activity Bond Volume Cap Allocation from the state ceiling for private activity bonds, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an assignment and other documents in connection therewith. At issue, the City of Wheat Ridge has received an allocation of $1,789,050 for the purpose of issuing private activity bonds in 2022 under the state ceiling imposed by the Tax Reform Act of 1987. Staff recommends assigning the city's allocation to Metro West Housing Solutions, which has agreed to issue private activity bonds for the renovation of Caesar Square Apartments, owned and operated by the Jefferson County Housing Authority.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. It is a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this?
We do have Lori Rosendahl from the Jefferson County Housing Authority doing business as Foothills Regional Housing, and I'll let her give a few comments. You can bring her on here.
Yeah, Ms. Rosendahl, if you'd like to just turn on your camera.
Hey guys, sorry, it's having a little bit of a hard time getting my Surface to work. Thank you so much for taking the time to consider this for us. This is just a continuation of the last time that you assigned bonds to us for Caesar Square. The financing at Caesar Square is complicated and requires us to use another entity to issue the bonds, so we are using Metro West. But the bond cap will all go to benefit the redevelopment of Caesar Square, which was over 100 units that we have now renovated. We are almost finished. Of course, whenever you do a renovation, you're going to have almost always have cost overruns, which we do have. And this bond cap will help us address those cost overruns and allow us to do a few extra things at the property. So I don't know if you guys have been by there lately, but we do have our community room up and going, and a new accessible laundry room. It's turning out really nice. So we appreciate your support, and we will be using all of the bond cap to help us meet the gap.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rosendahl. Before we go to questions from council, I would like to open it up to the public for to comment on this item. I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this on the sign-up sheet, but if you're here in council chambers and have not signed, you may come to the podium and speak now. And I will ask if anyone online would like to speak. If you'd like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the virtual format and Zoom format, and we'll bring you into the meeting. Just give it a couple more seconds here to see if anyone raises their hand. Okay, we will close. I don't see anyone from the public wanting to speak, so we'll go to questions from council. Council, have any questions on this item? Councilperson Hoffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Rosendahl, can you explain, I just drove by there the other day, and actually it's looking really amazing, but can you explain, it had said in the memo that there were a few items that you had not anticipated when starting construction in the first place. Can you just touch on a few of those things that have come up during construction that are requiring a larger budget for this project?
Sure. I'm going to have Amy speak to that. I think she's here. Amy, are you on this?
I am.
Okay.
Amy Case, Chief Financial Officer, Foothills Regional Housing, also known as the Jefferson County Housing Authority. We have had some additional, well, you know, as Lori said, we had some cost overruns really related to pandemic cost increases and supply chain delays. Additionally, we broadened the scope of some of the work. We did some additional site work. We did some additional electrical work. some additional plumbing work. So all of the additional scope was directly related to longevity of the property, safety, and asset integrity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Before I close the public hearing, I'm going to close the public hearing, and Councilor Hulteen, a motion is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Resolution Number 9, 2022, a resolution approving the assignment to the Housing Authority of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, DBA Metro West Housing Solutions, of $1,789,050 to the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado's 2022 Private Activity Bond Volume Cap Allocation from the state ceiling for private activity bonds, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an assignment and other documents in connection therewith.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Hoppe. Do we have discussion on the motion? Councilor Hoppe.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to say thank you to the Foothills Regional Housing for this project. I was actually on that property prior to when they began all the reconstruction. And I drive by it on a pretty regular basis, and it's looking really great. And I think that it's important that we remember that people do deserve to live in clean and safe environments, and that's what we're doing here. And I do know that construction costs have gone kind of through the roof over the last couple of years, and so I definitely appreciate that we are able to help them out with the situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go to agenda item number 3. Councilor Hutchinson, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill Number 02-2022, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 7585 West 32nd Avenue from restricted commercial RC to planned residential development, PRD, case number WZ-20-06. At issue, the applicant is requesting approval of a zone change from restricted commercial RC to planned residential development, PRD, with approval of an outline development plan, ODP, for the development of 14 single-family attached homes at 7585 West 32nd Avenue. The zone change is compatible with surrounding land uses, provides for housing option, and encourages improvement of the underutilized property.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. Councilor Hutchinson, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill Number 02-2022, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 7585 West 32nd Avenue from restricted commercial RC to planned residential development, PRD, on first reading. Order it published, public hearing set for Monday, April 25th, 2022 at 7 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers if allowed to meet in person on that date due to COVID-19 restriction, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Stites. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 4. Councilor Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill Number 03-2022, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 4877 Robb Street from Agricultural 1 A1 to Planned Commercial Development, PCD, case number WZ-2109. At issue, the applicant is requesting approval of a zone change from Agricultural 1 to Planned Commercial Development with approval of an outline development plan for the development of a tree service business at 4877 Robb Street. The zone change is compatible with the area and allows for an appropriate transition from surrounding land uses while encouraging investment in a long vacant lot.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. Ms. Dozeman, may I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill Number 03-2022, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 4877 Robb Street from Agricultural 1A1 to Planned Commercial Development, PCD, on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, April 25th, 2022 at 7 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers if allowed to meet in person on that date per COVID-19 restrictions, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
We have a second by Councilor Hulteen. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We will move to agenda item number 5. Councilor Hoppe, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 16-2022, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Porchlight Family Justice Center and the City of Wheat Ridge concerning the provision of on-site police department services at the center. At issue, Porchlight Family Justice Center began operations on February 25th, 2021, and has been open serving victims and survivors of domestic violence since that time. In April of 2021, Wheat Ridge executed a memorandum of understanding with Porchlight to allow Wheat Ridge Police Department to be a service provider through Porchlight despite not having dedicated space on site. The Wheat Ridge Police Department now has dedicated space on site at Porchlight for use when needed, and as such, a new MOU is requested by Porchlight because of this change.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
I think Chief Murtha may have a few words to say about our relationship with Porchlight.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. Just a few words on this. We continue to work with Porchlight and their really valuable services that they provide and conglomerate in one particular area. We find that that very helpful to our victims of who require those type of services. Approximately 5 or 6 months ago, I had a meeting at Porchlight, and in order to better facilitate those services reaching our residents who require them, the idea of having a staff member there once a week was offered to us, and we accepted that offer pending council approval to have somebody there on scene. I had hoped tonight to have some statistics for you to tell you exactly how often we use them. Obviously, we work with those service providers independently, but having them in one place is a great opportunity for the police department. We continue to have a great relationship with them, and this is just an amendment that allows us to have a seat at the table inside of their building once a week. So.
Thank you, Chief Murtha. Before we go to questions from council, I'd like to open this up to comments from the public. I have no one signed up to speak on this item, but if you are in the council chambers and would like to speak and haven't signed the sign-up list, you may do so now by coming to the podium. And you may also, if you are online in the Zoom format, raise your hand, and or if you're on the telephone, hit *6, and we'll bring you into the meeting. And I don't see that we have anyone speaking in council chambers or on the telephone, so we will close our citizens' right to speak portion and go to questions from council. Seeing none, Councilor Hoppe, may I please have a motion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 16-2022, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Porchlight, a Family Justice Center, and the City of Wheat Ridge concerning the provision of on-site police department services at the center.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Dozeman. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilor Hoppe, Councilor Hulteen, excuse me.
There's too many
Too many
counselors.
H's.
Yeah, too many
Well.
H's. I just want to say, I think it's really great that we're able to have an officer there. Having toured the facility, I know that there's a lot of agencies that are important for us to be coordinating with and be informed. So I think the services we're providing and having a presence there is important, but I think also there's a secondary benefit of just being in contact with the agencies that have a presence there. So I think this is really fantastic that we're able to do this, and I'm happy to be supporting it tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to point out that, Porchlight, they not only deal with domestic violence victims of domestic violence, but it's victims of violence. And so it's sexual violence, domestic violence, elderly abuse, children, child abuse, child sexual abuse. And I am I'm a new kid on the board, and I can say that in the first year, Wheat Ridge had a total of 194 misdemeanor domestic violence cases filed by the Wheat Ridge Police Department in Jefferson County, and that equaled about 5% of the guests that Porchlight was utilizing last year. One hard thing about those statistics is that those are people that Porchlight's navigation team helped, but because there are so many other service providers there, it doesn't mean that that's how many people actually walk through the door of Porchlight and were able to find services through one of their partnering agencies, which they have 23 on site and another 70 that they work with.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. We will move now to agenda item number 6. Councilor Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion to award a contract and approve subsequent payments of $100,000 to Logan Simpson of Fort Collins, Colorado for the Open Space Management Plan project. The current open space management plan for the city is 20 years old. A request for proposals, or RFP, was issued to solicit qualified firms to develop a new comprehensive open space management plan. 5 proposals were received and accepted as complete. City staff has evaluated the bids, and Logan Simpson was selected as the most responsible and responsive bidder in the amount of $100,000.
Thank you very much. This will be a bid motion by the council. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
I think our Parks and Rec Director, Karen O'Donnell, has a few words.
Okay, Director O'Donnell.
Actually, our Parks, Forestry, and Open Space Manager, Zach Lovato, is on Zoom. So
Okay,
he's
Mr. Lovato.
speak to this. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me. Just this project we're really excited about. It's going to last about a year, and a big part of this project will be our discovery sessions and direction setting, and that's going to happen throughout the duration of the project. A lot of that discovery is going to come from our community outreach. It's a really big portion of this work that we engage with the community at various different levels. We're going to do a lot of sessions with focus groups. We're going to do a lot of surveys, and we're going to try to get out into the field and talk to folks and see what it is that they would like to see in our open spaces and on our green belt. And with that, we're going to also do a existing conditions analysis. We're going to look at everything from the biology, environmental setting. It would be really interesting to see how that changed over the last 20 years, and take a look at our trailheads and access points to our green belts and to our open spaces. And that'll kind of set the stage for where we're moving forward. And then as a group, we're going to develop our vision and goals, maybe some alternatives for things that we've found, come up with some primary recommendations, and then start to build out our plan. And then our final task is to provide a document that we can base our future operations and maintenance and capital project plans on the findings. So we've decided to go with Logan Simpson. We had a pretty, I don't know if I would call it strenuous, but we had a pretty rigorous bid selection process. So we had, I think, 5 or 6 bidders primarily. Then we decided to do some in-person interviews with a few select bidders. And then we ultimately decided on Logan Simpson. I'm really excited to work with them. They have a very, very capable staff. They've done a lot of projects in the area. I do believe, and hopefully I'm not wrong on this, but I believe they helped with the Parks and Rec Master Plan in 2005. I could be wrong on that. But they're very familiar with the city of Wheat Ridge. And that's one thing that I really liked, and I think our selection team really noticed, was that they had an intimate relationship with the city of Wheat Ridge, which I think goes a long way. If they kind of understand the relationship between the Greenbelt which is central to the whole city. You know, it runs pretty much the entire span from west to east, and it's the center of our city. And that understanding of that connection with the community is really great, and it goes a long way. So we're looking forward to this. I'm super excited to work with y'all and City Council and with everybody in the community. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Lovato. Before we go to questions from council, I would like to open this up to the public to comment on. I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this item, but if you are here in council chambers, you may come to the podium and we will let you speak there. And I will also, if you're online on the Zoom format or the telephone, we're happy to have you join us in that format by raising your hand. So I'll see with Ms. Scheck if anyone has raised their hand who would like to speak on this agenda item number 6. Okay, we don't have anyone wanting to speak, so we will go to council. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Zach, for introducing that. I just had a quick question because I have been hearing from different constituents as well as some of the water providers in just that, sorry, Zach, I'm trying to look at the screen and Karen at the same time. So, but just that we consider in moving forward our sort of long-term understanding of how the ditches and the other historical water kind of works, because again, we have ditches that go through all of the parks, and I think a lot of our constituents don't quite understand the interesting intersection between ag water and sort of public use, and I think there's a really great opportunity here to have some great education, and I think some of the water providers would really like the opportunity to work with the city around some different projects in Park and Rec. So just a request. And if you have any comment about that, I'd appreciate it either, too.
Okay, any further questions or comments from council? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to see this moving forward, and I'm really excited about the consultant that's been selected for this. In particular, I think their community engagement plan is really thoughtful and robust, and I think you know, our Parks and Rec and open spaces, I think uniformly something the people of Wheat Ridge really appreciate and identify as part of the city. So I'm excited that this is getting updated, and I'm very excited that you're going to be really seeking, you know, our community's thoughts on that. One thing that when I was reading through it, we all have our ideas of what our parks and recs and open space should be or shouldn't be. But I think increasingly, especially in the age of some of the, you know, environmental issues that we're facing regionally, I'm just wondering if there's any additional information on how, you know, I know it says like stewardship and resource management is something that's going to be addressed, but really looking to, you know, get a sense of how forward the plan is going to be around recognizing that the resources we're talking about are both things we want to preserve, but also we need to manage for, you know, the safety and preservation of our community.
I'll go ahead and go, Karen, if you don't mind. I'll just respond to both of you guys on those issues. I think that's the part that I'm really looking forward to is the engagement, not just with everybody in our community, but those folks within the city structure and with city council and the mayor, and learn, you know, get all of these things on the table so that we can lay out the framework to address each and every one of those. And I think the important thing to consider with this is it's not a master plan. So it's not, you know, there's going to be components to it that will be master plan like, but as far as management goes, it's a management plan. And so it's really what we're after is to identify these things that we want to address directly, and then come up with a plan in ways to address those things. And a lot of it will be keeping track of observational and statistics and quantitative data, and looking back at our old plan and seeing how things changed from then to now over the last 20 years, and then really taking more of an active role in management and stewardship. It's kind of one thing to, you know, go off of what we have always been doing, but I think there's always room for improvement. and things like stewardship. Um, there's so many things out there that we can take a closer look at and see how we can move forward in a positive direction and start implementing certain practices and projects that improve the quality of our urban open space environment. I think one of the biggest criteria for me was that the consultants that we selected had a full understanding of the uniqueness of our open space, just the geographical change from the west side of the trail all the way to the east side, and how the city interacts with the trail and the creek in between. I know it's not unique to Colorado, but it is it's a little bit different. It's more resource intensive than a lot of other open spaces. I mean, if you can picture a huge swath of open space out in a county somewhere, the management of that is so much different than the way we manage ours, just because of the interaction that we have with the urban environment. So really looking forward to working with you guys on this, and I'm excited for this next year.
Great, thank you. I just want to say part of why I moved to Wheat Ridge is because I was spending most of my recreation time on the Clear Creek Trail before I lived here, and it just made more sense to get closer to it. So excited to see this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lovato, there's on our future agenda items list, there has been a topic that was brought up by two of our counselors. It was a wildlife and habitat management plan. Will this open space management plan maybe address some of what would be in a wildlife and habitat management plan, or kind of find a path forward for that?
Yeah, certainly. That's a big part of it. And it's one of the big reasons why we selected this consultancy is they have a staff biologist and a environmental planner on their staff. And just being able to kind of set the baseline, of where our wildlife and ecological resources are at. And then we're gonna get a lot of things that are gonna help us move forward in managing our wildlife and natural systems. I think what I see, and I guess we're gonna have to wait to see how this process works out, but really what I foresee is we're gonna have a lot of a great foundation for quite a few things. And that will probably be one of them. I think there's going to be a few spin-offs, if you will, where I can see, okay, we have this, and we found this data, and we have this this information. Now, what do we do with it? And so moving forward, we have to either dive deeper or prioritize, and that's certainly one of our higher priorities. And so. Yeah, well, I think we're going to have a few spinoffs. Another thing that you might consider is, access to trailheads. I know there's a great need to access the Greenbelt, and a lot of places throughout the city don't have quite the access that we might desire. So that in and of itself is kind of a transportation planning exercise. And so there's going to be a lot of things that come out that I can see spinning off in a positive direction. And this sets the stage for a lot of that.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lovato, I got a couple questions. One is there going to be any consideration for possible co-locating like fiber optic along or under trails?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I can probably go on and on about this, but my open space and forestry supervisor and I have been dreaming up of this plan to have a smart trail system, and that could certainly be part of this. But if we could get communication throughout the entire span of the trail, with some electrical connections, we can start to do some neat things on the trail by gathering data. We can get speed data from bicycle users. We can count trail users. We can have signs that, let's say somebody's doing maintenance. It would be really cool to have our folks have a tablet that says we're doing maintenance on zone blue 2, and they can, automatically send that out to some signage that would warn bikers and pedestrians that there's work ahead. And so there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. And I think it's very much worth exploring. It's worth asking, if it's feasible and possible. And so like I was explaining before, I think there's a lot of great things that are going to come out of this, and that's certainly one of them that I would love to see.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, are there going to be some type of counts on the trail based on, like for current usage, and then something that we could use in the future for like akin to like traffic counts as there's new development that gains access to this trail, that how do we determine, what the appropriate width is for certain points, maybe not all the trail, but for certain areas?
Yeah, well, first off, I'd have to say that I am disappointed to tell you that we do not have very good data for the number of trail users we currently have. A couple of years ago, we got a grant for a trail counter, and we could never get it to work. It can only span about 6 feet, and our trail is 8 to 10 feet wide in most sections. And so we could never get it to work correctly. So that's number one. Let's find out who's using our trail, what their purposes are, how they're using it, and the different modes of transportation. And then the second thing would be more of a planning function. It's kind of like planning for traffic. If we get more users on the trail, how do we expand or alternate different pathways so that we can, potentially have a primary bike lane and then a primary pedestrian lane and separate traffic for different reasons. And so a lot of that information is going to come out of this project. Anything that we don't gather, we'll certainly have the question on the table, and it's going to spin off into a new project. And so I can see 3 or 4 other smaller undertakings coming from this that we'll need to conduct over the next few years so that we can achieve the goals and the vision and try to attain the vision that we set forth in the document.
Thank you. I'm excited about this project.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Lovato, I want to express that I'm honored to sit on the board of the Mile High Flood District, and of course Clear Creek runs through this area and is a major waterway in our city and actually through the whole metropolitan area. And I know we have a lot of talented people that are on that staff there, and they are excited about working with communities and cities to share resources and really to develop the best projects. So if there's any assistance that the Mile High Flood District can be in our design and development of this plan, I want you to feel free to reach out to them, and if I can ever help you with that, please feel free to call on me.
That's great to know. Thank you very much. So the Flood District has been great to us, and I will certainly keep that coupon in my back pocket because I'm sure we'll call you.
Very good. All right, any further discussion before I call for a motion? Councilor Weaver, may I have a motion on agenda item number 6?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to award a contract and approve subsequent payments of $100,000 to Logan Simpson, Fort Collins, Colorado, for the Open Space Management Plan project.
Second.
A little delayed, but I think Councilor Hoppe got that. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. That will bring us to agenda item number 7. Councilor Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 17-2022, resolution amending the 2022 fiscal year general fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $150,000 to accept grant funds from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the purpose of awarding a contract and approving subsequent payments to CCP for an affordable housing strategy and action plan. At issue, addressing affordable housing is one of the city's and state's most pressing issues. The Colorado Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, awarded the city a grant in the amount of $112,500 for an affordable housing strategy and action plan in October 2021. On February 18, 2022, the firm CZB LLC was selected in the city's established procurement process to perform the required professional services for completion of the plan. The resolution amends the city's 2022 budget in the amount of $150,000, accepts the grant award from DOLA, and accepts the contract to ZZB LLC.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. We have a few staff here, and Jeff, yeah, go ahead. You want to? Jeff Hurt and Ken Johnstone's on Zoom, but I'd just like to start. This is another project we're very excited about and came at a very crucial time. Thanks to the state for providing the funding for this. And you know, we mentioned how busy we are in the city. Good busy, a lot of great projects going on, and staff saw this grant, and we knew we had to jump on it just because it was so important. So I appreciate staff jumping on it, and we were awarded, and so we're very excited. And I don't know if Ken, do you want to start or just turn it over to Jeff?
Yeah, I think we can just turn it over to Jeff. Patrick, thank you.
Mr. Hurt?
Okay, thanks. So Jeff Hurt, I'm a planner in the Community Development Department. I think it was teed up well between Patrick and yourselves in terms of the importance of this topic. We've certainly heard that it's one of sort of the top tier issues among City Council, and increasingly we're hearing it from the community as part of our Let's Talk program and other efforts. So it's definitely top tier. We agree, and so therefore we went after this grant application. City Council did support us going for the application back in September. And so we were awarded for a $150,000 project, which is a healthy budget for this type of effort. We're happy about that. The state will reimburse us for 75% of that amount. So it's definitely an opportunity. And I guess the couple things I wanted to say, and I don't have any slides or anything, is just it's really a well-timed opportunity from our perspective in terms of both the level of support sort of politically and in the community, but also increasingly we're seeing some opportunity sites in a built-out city, right, and how rare that is in terms of Lutheran and other infill sites. And so we're also seeing at least in terms of comparison to our peers, a real lack of a policy foundation and sort of shared understanding of definitions around what does attainable mean, what does affordable mean. These are things and policies that are articulated, you know, in Arvada and Lakewood and Golden and Denver. We simply don't really have those on our books right now. So this is a really, really important step, sort of a foundational step in terms of getting an understanding of what the data is that's specific to Wheat Ridge, and then developing responsive actions to address, you know, the gaps that we find in the data. And so there'll certainly be engagement with council and with community members throughout this process. We have a study session scheduled with you all on May 2nd. So that'll be the opportunity to really dive in. And we'll have consultants here from CZB, who may be familiar to some of you. They worked on the 2019 Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy. So they're very familiar with Wheat Ridge, which is great. And housing strategies are definitely in their wheelhouse. So I also wanted to say it's going to be a pretty technical exercise. So that sort of changes the shape of the engagement, and so it can be a challenging thing to engage the community on. So a lot of data, a lot of technical analysis goes into sort of this foundational understanding of kind of where we're at. So something to keep in mind as we move forward. So let's see what else I wanted to cover. Overall schedule is pretty fast moving, and we had discussions with our consultant about this and the importance of doing that and just being kind of all in and getting it done before the holidays is the goal, in and around October. So you'll see once we hit May 2nd, you'll see we're really moving fast on this, and we're excited about that and excited to work with you all to kind of understand your perspective on the issue. Just for tonight, I'm just here to answer any questions about the contract and the budget supplemental. And then certainly if you want to tee up topics that you feel are important for us to have teed up on May 2nd, we'd like to hear that tonight. Other than that, unless Ken or Patrick have anything else to add, again, we're excited to work on this. It's a great opportunity. We think it'll be a really important step for Wheat Ridge on this important issue.
Thank you. Before we go to questions from council, I'd like to open this up for comment from the public. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on that, this is your opportunity. I have no one signed up to speak, but if you're in council chambers and would like to speak, now is your opportunity. And you may speak if you are online, and I will see if anyone has raised their hand, and it looks like no one has raised their hand, so we will close that portion and go to questions from council. And I see Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was really excited to see that CZB got this contract award, having worked with them as the co-chair of the NRS. I was thoroughly impressed with both their methodology in terms of looking at market data and really understanding both Wheat Ridge's unique circumstances, but also how that relates to sort of general trends and opportunities. So I think I'm really excited that we've got them. But they also really took the time to understand what makes Wheat Ridge unique. They weren't trying to make us fit into some preconceived idea of what something should be. So I'm really optimistic and enthusiastic that what we're going to get out of this process is, a tangible report and recommendations that works for us as a community. And so to that end, I don't have any specific ideas, recommendations. May 2nd's a ways away. I may come up with them. But it's really time for us to tackle this and to, figure out what does it mean to us, who's serving, and what do we need to do to make sure that Wheat Ridge remains a, community that is a place that everyone can call home, regardless of, where you are at your point in life. I think several council members have shared stories of, not being able to, make Wheat Ridge their first home because it was too expensive. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm excited CZB and excited for May 2nd.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Just wanted to congratulate the city for getting this grant. This is great, and it's very well timed. So, and I agree with all of Councilor Hulteen's comments as well.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, wait. Oh, we've got one more with Councilor Hulteen.
Okay, it's not May 2nd yet, but I did think of something. In my professional work, a lot of times when we're looking at sustainable transportation planning, something we open with a lot is sometimes the best transportation plan is a good land use plan. So is looking at our transportation options and availability going to be part of the housing plan that we're looking at?
Absolutely, yeah. We see them as linked integrally as well in terms of options for transit. So, but I have that flag for a particular focus going forward.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, Councilor Stites, may I have a motion? May I have a motion? I don't believe I have a motion yet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 17-2022, a resolution amending the 2022 fiscal year general fund budget to reflect an approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $150,000 for the purpose of funding the Affordable Housing Strategy and Action Plan and accepting grant funds from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Hulteen. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda items. We'll now go to city managers matters. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much this evening, just an announcement to make. Our public Knutson is retiring after 31 years with the city. So I think I've gone through a whole management team and since I've been here, and so he was a great asset, and he doesn't want any fanfare, so you probably won't see him come into a council meeting accepting a proclamation. So I'm just announcing this evening he'll be here through the end of April, but thank him for all he's done. He's had numerous positions in the city, and the most recent was as Public Works Director and managed our streets and our fleet and our roads and did a really great job. So I want to thank him, and I think Karen O'Donnell may have a couple quick updates for you also.
Okay, Director O'Donnell.
Thank you. So I wanted to mention that we have our tree sales coming up, and those will be April 16th and April 23rd at Anderson Park from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that will be an event where our residents can purchase trees at wholesale prices. And they'll have to pay by cash or check, and it's pickup only, but it's very exciting. It's our first year, and hopefully next year we'll be able to allow people to pre-order. We just didn't get that together this year, but there's over 20 species, so it's going to be pretty exciting. And then with that, similarly, we will have a planting event, a tree planting event on 38th on May 14th, and we'll give you more information later, but I just wanted to mention because it's related to this. And then I was also asked for an update on the tree grant program, and I just got a quick text from Zach, and we had 26 applications last year, and 14 people followed through. We rolled over the extra funds into this year to cover additional work from those applicants. And then we will be opening up our 2022 efforts in April, so the applications will be available online again. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is we have a volunteer and job recruitment event at the Recreation Center on April 15th, which is a Friday, from 2 to 4:30 p.m. So if you know of anybody that wants to work in Parks and Recreation, we'd love for them to join us. That's all.
Counselor Weaver.
Will all the information about the tree sale be on not only Parks and Rec page, but can that go on City of Wheat Ridge as well?
Yes, it
Okay.
is on our website currently, and we've pushed it out on social media, but we can make sure that that's available elsewhere.
Great.
We'll
And
make
it
it-
even has a link for all the tree species if people are interested in looking at that before
Awesome.
arriving, but obviously it's first come, first served, so if you want a particular tree, show up early.
Counselor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering, since this is like pickup, okay, how big are the trees?
That's a question I can't answer, but I can get you that answer, but
Won't
Zach's
fit in
not
my
on.
car.
I don't know.
Okay. Director O'Donnell, would you, we also have some Easter egg hunts coming up. Would you be so kind as to make the announcement with the dates and times on that?
Yes, thank you, and let me find that really quickly so I don't misspeak, but I know I just sent it to you, Mayor, so I can open that real
If you send it to me, then I may have it. I don't check
That's
this
okay,
thing.
I'll open it right here. I
Okay.
just don't want to give anybody the wrong information. So that Easter egg hunt is April 9th, and it is from 10 a.m. until noon, and it's being held at Panorama Park, Anderson Park, and Discovery Park. And it's free.
Okay. And those are great events, I'll tell you. If you've never made it there, you're missing something. So if you have an opportunity to go, please do.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, our chief has a quick update too.
Well, we're going to go to the chief next then. Chief Bertha.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Two quick things. One, we're in the process of hiring our park rangers, so I think we have one hired already. It's a little earlier than normal, but we've seen a lot of activity in our Greenbelt and other areas. Can you hear me? All right. And second, we have restructured our communications team. I think we sent out some information on that. Sarah Spalding will be moving over. The council has been very busy and given our public information officer a lot of work. The police department has hired its own PIO. I'm happy to announce that Joanna Small from Linwood, Washington, has accepted the position, is in the process of moving her family out here. Joanna is an award-winning newscaster with WKIRO in Seattle. Prior to becoming the spokesperson for the Linwood, Washington Police Department, she's going to be an outstanding addition to our team. She comes with high praise and high credentials, and she's moving here to be back closer to her parents and her sister who live in Colorado. I know that that story, if you remember, mirrors mine a little bit, so I have a lot of empathy for her ability to move, but we're very excited to have Joanna Small, no S at the end, on board, and I'm looking forward to introducing her to the council in the future. So,
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
I think we're done.
Are you,
Ally,
you're
do
gonna-
you want to add?
Okay.
Got a
I
great
don't-
team back here. I want them to.
I certainly don't want to cut you short. With that, we'll go to our city attorney, Mr. Dahl.
Nothing tonight, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. We will go to elected officials matters, and we'll start with Ms. Dozman.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Absolutely beautiful day today. If we could just do something about the wind, eh? And talking about wildlife, I have had coyote, fox, and lots of bunnies in my yard. So it isn't just out on the open space area. And the dandelions are growing.
We're out in the prairie. Very good. Councilor Stites.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor. I just recommend that everybody shop local, and if you can find it by Wheat Ridge.
Very good. All right. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. Today was a gorgeous day. I was out on my bike on the Clear Creek Trail and kind of taking notice of the Prospect Park, how it's coming along. So I'm sure as many other residents that are getting, anxious, but I can see the progress of the sidewalks and the curb and the gutter. Yeah, beautiful day. And just a quick shout out to, our Wheat Ridge Cyclery. To, you know, if you get a chance, shop there. I did have one question about the tree sale, which is very exciting. If there would be a possibility to put the mature height and width on these trees, because there might be some residents that might look at something and think this is going to be a small tree, and in fact, it's a 60 to 70 foot tall tree.
It's actually quite good that Ally asked me for this information because it's on here and I just didn't know it, so I can answer your question. Trees are 3/4 inch to 1 inch diameter and 4 to 5 feet tall.
I meant the mature size.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Counselor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm super excited about the tree sale as well. I will be the first one there, so I'll be planning on camping overnight in the parking lot. I also wanted to mention that not only will they be having the tree planting workshop, but at the end of the season, Regenerate Wheat Ridge will be doing a what to do with your trees before overwintering them in the fall. And we may have a special guest who's related to a certain chief that we have who will be helping with that talk along with our excellent experts at Wheat Ridge Park and Rec.
Excellent. Counselor Hoppy.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of things tonight. First of all, actually, I'd like to recognize our mayor. You know, we're lucky you do a fantastic job here on the dais, but something that the mayor spends a lot of time doing is representing us on various boards. And I get to bump into him a little bit outside of my role as a city council member, but you know, I think it's the type of work that it's kind of invisible to our community. And Mayor Stricker is widely, you know, just really revered for, you know, his service on those boards, and his presence actually really shows up in our community in a lot of ways. So I just want to recognize you and thank you for showing up in all those rooms and being a voice for our city in really important conversations that ultimately translate to great things for our city. So thank you, Mayor
Well,
Stricker.
thank you very much. It's an honor for me to do that.
Yeah, well, thank you. So the next topic I want to bring up, a couple things sort of are coming together for me, and I would like to suggest a study session for us to take a look at reevaluating the tax that applying the lodger's tax to short-term rentals. When we authorized short-term rent, when we regulated them last year, we went ahead and used the default lodger's tax, which is 10%, and it's the second highest in the region. And part of why that's high is because some of that funds police department work to, you know, keep our motels and hotels safe. I'd like to take a look at creating a standalone short-term rental tax that would, those revenues would then actually be used specifically to the benefit of addressing homelessness or attainable housing in our community. I think it's an opportunity for us to actually use the tax revenue for short-term rentals to actually address an issue in our community that's more related to short-term rentals. So I'd like to add that to a study session, and I'm curious if anyone would be my second on that.
I support you in that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hoppy.
Is that it? No, okay, that's quick.
I could keep going. I
That's-
never run out of things
That's
to
okay.
talk about.
That's okay.
May I
Counselor
just ask a
Hutchinson, yes, you
question?
may.
I always ask questions. Are you speaking about an additional tax?
No, I'm talking about revisiting, so we just apply the lodger's tax to short-term rentals. And so actually creating a standalone short-term rental tax rate that would apply just to short-term rentals, and the revenues from that would go towards, I think, you know, council's policy decision about if it's better applied towards our, you know, supporting our efforts around homelessness or attainable housing, but actually create a dedicated fund for that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Our elected clerk is not here, but I want to see if our standing-in clerk, Mr. Eaton, has anything that we should know.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you so much. That brings us close to our adjournment. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I don't have any particular announcements. I want to say that I took a real nice walk with my son yesterday around around the park. Not Prospect Park, Panorama Park. Yeah, big view, great park, and it's so nice to be out in our parks on nice days in our cities. So we have a great city. The weather's getting good. We'll see more youngsters out playing outside. So I hope everyone will take a really special care to drive safely and drive alertly, and to make sure that all of our citizens get home every night safe and sound. So if there's no more business to come before council, we will stand adjourned. And we will be